There's nothing inherently wrong with a role. There just isn't. A role is on paper. That is all a role is. The problem is you. You are the problem in that case. It's not the role. It's you, the person. You've either outgrown it, you either don't like it, you don't want it anymore. Whatever. You are the problem, and you have to take the responsibility, saying that's not me, and I got to do this.
There's a single moment that I go back to where I woke up and I didn't want to put on clothes. I didn't want to put on the mask. I didn't want to put on my responsibilities. I was a CEO for a company, but I woke up feeling like I was trapped in a box. And it almost felt like I had to shrink down, like I couldn't be me anymore because I had to be this person. I had to like show up to the job, to show up to my company, show up to my team, show up to my family, show up to my friends, and and I was locked in this container. It was a moment that I'll never forget. And when I finally realized that I had shrunk so small down into this little tiny role, I realized that I had done this to myself, and I was ready to make a dramatic change in my life. I didn't know where to start, but maybe the journey that I went through can help you from not being trapped in the same box, from not shrinking, and most importantly, from recognizing that the journey to being more authentic and to really being who you are starts with that pain. Today, this conversation on the podcast is a really raw one. This is going to be full of various different trials and tribulations and emotions that came up as I went through this change. And I'm here with Marty. We're going to talk about this today. But to kick this off with you, I'm really excited that you're here because I don't think this gets talked about very often. This idea of wearing the role and showing the world, that but behind all these responsibilities and structures and shapes that we have by running a business and being the leader, maybe we can actually bring light to where you are or where you've been and where you might have been stuck. To start this off, I think back to an interview with Jim Carrey that I saw a long time ago. The clips went viral on social media, and I really like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has these amazing stories. I think he is really dialed in, but he has these stories of like sitting on the top in Hollywood of a hill and manifesting, quote unquote, his like $5 million check that he got from Dumb and Dumber. He has stories of tremendous personal growth and abject failure, all in the same place. And then we know him as the comedian, the guy in the mask, Dumb and Dumber, in all the like Me, Myself, and I, all these really interesting depictions of who he is. And in this particular podcast, he says a quote that hit me right between the eyes in the middle of this season that I'm referencing, where I felt like I had outgrown my role and I didn't want to play it anymore. So I'm going to read it to you. This is from Jim Carrey. Depression is your body saying, I don't want to be this character anymore. It's too much for me. You should think of the word depressed as deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play. It's a really powerful quote. Marty, I want to start there. Like, this idea of being stuck in a role, being stuck in a box, having to wear this like cape or this mask, and being trapped there, I think is a common problem, especially for men who have to look strong, who have to look like they're put together, who have to have it all figured out. And underneath that could be a really hurt person, could also be a person that's ready to be more, ready to like grow out of the role. And there's a lot of pain attached with that. What's your experience with the pain behind it? Like, let's describe that first.
As to like what that feels like, looks like. For me, I don't even know if I, in my own life, because that was my experience in ministry as well, but also transformation, even at this point in my life, that I don't think we're always aware of it while we're in it, because it essentially becomes the known. Like, this is all I know. Like, I don't know what's beyond the box. And I think the box, in many ways, helped us to get where we were. I think ministry helped me to get me where I was. But at some point, this is my experience, a crack got in the box, and all it took was a crack, and then the whole thing kind of implodes.
Yeah, then the mirage is up.
Correct. And in that moment, it was, for me, It was a recognition of regret. It was a recognition of, do I really want to be this person the rest of my life for the next 30, 40 years? And in my experience, this is, I can't speak for women. This is a man problem through and through, who overly identify with their role and think that that role is everything to them. And if that role ever just lose your job and the whole person falls apart. And that I think that's the pain. That's what it feels like. My entire identity is being cracked. But the flip side of the coin is, it actually helped me see who I actually was.
Yeah, I feel like the role for me felt safe and felt, like, well, this is good. It's good. Like, isn't it good? And I just kept saying, like, isn't it good? Isn't it good enough?
All the little false yeses along the way.
Why can't this be good enough? Why, like, you, and look, the question that I've had to ask, and I've asked clients, is like, what if this was playing small? What if there was more for you? And you know, the place that I got, like, I essentially had the things that many people coveted. I had a brand, I had attention. I got featured in, like, the Baltimore Business Journal. I had volunteers that were lined up ready to come to our events. I was coaching, I was getting attention as a coach. I had, it's not like I was balling out financially, but I had progress. Like, I was experiencing upward mobility. I had a team. I had people that were connected to the vision that I had. And this role, man, I got lost being the guy that, like, was playing this character, and then being like, dude, this was only supposed to be like one movie. And now I'm, like, trapped in this role for like 10 fucking Marvel films. And then I don't want to be this guy anymore. And I think actually acting is a really important, maybe, corollary to this conversation, because that is what CEO life is for a lot of people. And not in a bad, I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that to be derogatory. I actually mean it in a really beautiful way. Because when you get an A-list actor, they become that character, right? You, as an entrepreneur, you got to become the leader. You got to become the CEO. You've got to become the fucking man.
I think you and I talked because we're Ted Lasso fans. That if you read any of the interviews with, or listen to reviews with Rebecca, I forget what her actual name is. That she even speaks to that fact that it got blurred as to who she was and who that role was, because she really became that person.
Right. I mean, look, this is why a lot of actors are often challenged personally, because the roles become so immersive, and then you got to disconnect, and it's like, whoa, where am I at? So I very much sympathize with that. I also think that, if you're in a CEO role, for example, you're not only playing that role for your business, you're playing that role at home, you're playing it with friends, you're playing it publicly, you're playing it on YouTube, you're wearing all these shades of that character. And then the growth plate stops. And the feeling that I had, and maybe the feeling that someone listening has, is that, like, there's more for me, but I still have to show up in this role. Like, I have to do the bigger thing, the other thing, like, in secret, because no, I wouldn't want someone to think I'm not committed. I wouldn't want someone to think I'm not serious about this. I wouldn't want someone to think I've outgrown them or I don't care. Name the excuse after excuse after excuse. And that's been a really hard thing for me to acknowledge, that, like, I'm capable of more, and I got to go.
That was me. I felt I couldn't grow there anymore. I could not grow there anymore, and not only just in terms of a position in ministry, but as a person, I felt I could not grow there anymore. I had outgrown it. And once the box breaks, you cannot put. You could try hard to put yourself back in there, but once you're aware, forget it. You can't put the box back.
Yeah, this is an interesting second Jim Carrey quote as we carry into, like, our first real anchor point here. But this is another
It's
Jim Carrey
it's,
quote.
it's like serious conversation, but the most unserious person as an actor.
But bro, I'm telling you, Jim Carrey is way dialed in. Like, the comedy that we see is largely a result of his personal growth. So here's another Jim Carrey quote that I think you'll love, Marty. When you create yourself to make it, you're going to either have to let that creation go and take a chance on being loved or hated for who you really are, or you're going to have to kill who you really are and fall into your grave grasping onto a character that you never were. And like, woo, Jim Carrey dropping. I mean, that is a fucking awesome quote. And I think that there's this price of performance that many of us get lost in. I've been lost in this. I think founders create this idea of like, who they're going to be and how it's going to come to fruition and who they have to become. And then they go on the path of becoming. And then all of a sudden you get kind of lost in it. And at some point you wake up and you're like, oh, I have to wake up today and act like this person that I don't want to be like anymore. Right. And man, I was talking to a buddy the other day about, how much we've grown and how far we've come and how sometimes that creates this disconnect from where we started and the people that we loved and the people that we hang out with, and what it's like to really put those two identities together. But in a particular place, founders, I think there's like a old model of like, hey, well, I've just had to be this way for so long. And eventually you got to kind of crack that box. You got to get out of it and expand. And if you choose not to expand, you are deliberately shrinking, right? If you can do more, you're shrinking.
And it doesn't mean you're no longer the founder. I think that's the loop. This is for me. I speak for myself. The loop is, well, then what am I? You're still the founder. You just have to. It takes on a new life.
I had a speaker one time that I talked to after an event. He had prompted the whole group with one question. He said, do you want to be liked, respected, or taken seriously? Those are the three options, right? And I would argue that progression is actually this problem. So as founders, the first stage of running a business is I want to be liked, because you get people that like you get people that believe you, that trust you to see your vision.
You need customers. You need all that kind of stuff.
The next phase is I want to be respected. I want people to look at me and say like, hey, I'm going to trust that guy. I'm going to follow what he says. I'm going to, this is like building out teams and building out structure. And then you get to a place of like, well, I need to be taken seriously. And, as the progression of building a business shows up, a lot of times the leadership challenge is, well, I've acted this way because they like me, or I want to be liked, rather than I want to run the business, or I want to scale the business, or I want to grow the team out, or I want to have this run autonomously. Like a lot of leaders are seeking the business to run without them, but constantly insert themselves back in to day-to-day ops or decisions because they want to be liked, rather than, hey, like, take me serious.
That it's a hard one to separate, because the culture of the world we live in is a click culture, and it's about like. It's hard to break away from that when we're bombarded by that all the time.
It's also, I think we coddle a lot of people in today's world, where your teams don't want to deal with tough jobs, or teams don't want to deal with tough circumstances, and like at the end of the day, this is a job. We're getting things done. I want the culture to be positive, and also this is your job, right? And if you have to constantly be liked, you really are limiting yourself, because eventually, like, to break out of any box, you have to deal with dislike. You just have to. Like, I've had to deal with dislike professionally, personally. Like, if someone wants to see me as the monster, I can deal with that now. And 10 years ago, definitely not. I would have bent over backwards and morphed myself to not be the monster. And if someone wants to see me that way, I got no control over that now. I get that. But I'd rather not. I'd rather be disliked and taken seriously than the other way around.
I think we sell people short, that they don't, on a team, that they don't see things, that we can kind of hide that we do this kind of stuff. In my experience, that they are more aware that you are than you are, that you're doing this, and that you'll never get respect from them at that point, because they know that that's not even where you are as a founder, as a leader. I'd question whether you're a leader at that point.
Another symptom that I think about is that a founder is so accustomed to being busy and making production like a to-do list versus something else. So I see this in one of my friends from college became a really young CEO of a company that did manufacturing. And in talking to him, like, the way he thought and the way he operated was, in my mind, comparatively very slow, very unproductive. Because I'm like doing all this stuff, I'm like hustling. This is I had just started running my own companies, but he came into an established company. So when he became CEO, like his roles were very clear. And I think the understanding of that was far more advanced for him than it was for me. So I would see him and be like, "What do you do all day, bro?" And the growth plate for a lot of entrepreneurs that I see and coach through is busyness becomes the norm for, well, this is how I measure my production. I'm busy all the time. And then you get to this place where like performance becomes this prison and it feels stable, but you can't chase the big thing. You can't chase the like huge objective. And look, in every business you got to kind of balance short term and long term. But I think that the narrative when it comes to this like production identity that entrepreneurs need to break out of eventually costs you the long term. It costs you the long game by playing the short game so like quote unquote productively.
Yes, I think again, I think that's true across the board. The short game will get it, and there needs to be some short game, but even that has to be coupled with long game. It has to be.
Yeah, the like performing piece is one that I know well. Uh, I think part of my profession in many ways, and inherently ours, but part of specifically my role, like if I'm on stage, I did a workshop with somebody on stage one time, and he was not like a speaker, but he was just there to help and add uh, data and experience and all this to a little mini workshop. And he was like, "Oh my god, dude! Like, what a performance!" And that was the first time I'd ever had somebody be like, "Did you see yourself? Like, holy shit, dude!" Now it was a compliment because I knew that it inspired and motivated and moved people. Right, it's my job. And also, if I'm like trapped in that role, if I always have to be performing, if I always have to be on, then I'm trapped. I'm fundamentally blocked from being the authentic version of me who does not want to always perform.
Because I think this is how I would see that. In that case, the persona continues, it gets fed now because it's all ego at that point. And then the real person is the one who has to get smaller in order to so this persona can fill the stage. I remember hearing a speaker at one time. I forget who it was at this point, but whoever his assistant was or whatever that person's title was had to be brutally honest with him when he got off the stage because all he would hear is how great it was, how perfect. And that's true. And someone has to keep it real at the same time. And that person, that was their specific job when he spoke.
I like it. Yeah. This is where two things. It's the humility piece, and I want to go there, but I think part of this is also about playing bigger, right? If we're really having a conversation about like you're shrinking, then what we're talking about is like there's bigger for you. And
That's the more like if you're always experiencing more and that's unsettledness, you're more than likely shrinking.
yeah, yeah. I mean the idea of being on stage and performing, for a lot of people is a goal, and I love that. What I think we're trying to address here is not that there's a specific more that you're chasing, whether that's speaking or something else. Like, but what we're really addressing is that there is more once you let go of the role, right? Once you are able to be like, okay, this is the role that I'm in, and there it has limitations. The role has limitations, not I have limitations. The role has limitations.
I just had this conversation yesterday with someone about my own experience of this topic, and I was the seeker. I was always seeking. There's got to be something more. Got to be something. Got over and over again. Literally within a day of leaving ministry, it was like I had collapsed into myself. The role no longer confined me. And since then, I'm not that same kind of seeker as I was. I'm still looking for truth that in that way, but not in the same way because I no longer have to be confined by that role. And it was almost instantly that happened.
Well, I think the scary part in all this is that the role that you're in, the like label that you have, it works. It absolutely works. It works to make you more money. It works to get you more attention. It works to create validation. It works. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. I'm not condemning the role nor the pursuit of the role.
Roles are necessary. They're necessary.
They're necessary, and that's what create lifts. What we're saying here is like an employee in a company that wants to level up, you got to level up your role, right? And if your role, I think in entrepreneurship, because the label is so vague, right? You just label somebody entrepreneur, then it's like, well, then I'm stuck with that role, and that's not the reality of it. What you and I think are confronting is that if I label someone an entrepreneur, I'm almost putting a cap on them, because whatever started their entrepreneur career might not end it. And really the goal, like, put serial in the front of that, right? If I say serial entrepreneur, which I also don't like that phrase, but if I put serial there, well, now there's a different role, because it's implied by that role that I'm going to go from one business to the next, that I'm going to level up, that I'm going to change.
I feel like we only ever use serial with killer. Like it's just not a good word.
Well, people say serial entrepreneur, and it doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
But I think it, like, beyond entrepreneur, even you're visionary, I'm integrator. That automatically puts limitations, and you eventually have to push against what you thought that meant. It's what I'm doing now in my life. But that has to happen in order for not only you to grow, but for the role to grow as well.
So let's think about this. Like, if you are sick of the role that you're in, there's got to be a way to begin to push buttons, right? I think that the pushing of buttons is critical to expansion. So I just want to share how I do that. If I look at what's feeling good and what's not, usually what happens is I start to bump up against unspoken, unsaid, self-created expectations.
Correct.
I have to run it this way. I run the company this way. And like a lot of movies around business have this, where like the leader comes in and is like, I'm done. Or they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Or they're like, hey, we're changing shit up.
They come in, they blow everything up.
They blow it up. And in a way, that is what you have to do. Now, those are exaggerated, right? Because the movie can't be 60 days long. It has to be 2 hours. But that does happen, where it's like, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore, right? We see this a lot in like family businesses, where someone inherits the company or is pressured to like stay in the business, and they've got to figure out, how do I do it, or do I do it, or what is it? But the expansion of roles is usually indicated by starting to feel the expectations, and then you can't unsee it, right? You can't experience the moment where you're like, I don't want to show up together and selling fucking magic handkerchiefs. I don't want to do this anymore, Dad. And then also,
Very specific.
yeah, for some reason, that's where I went. But I think that's the first indicator, right? The second indicator is like, I start to ask questions like, do I want this? Do I want more of what I have? And I immediately can feel a sense of pain when I come to grips with the fact that I don't want more of what I have.
Because it's like someone throwing a cinder block at your head.
Yeah, it's definitely painful. And
Go ahead, finish your thought.
just that when I think there can be a lot of shame around like not wanting it, because it's good, right? Like, the business is good, the job is good, people want to be me, and I don't want to be me. I don't want to be this me. I want to be a different me, or I want something different, and to own that takes a little bit of work.
I would tweak one thing, because I think there's nothing inherently wrong with a role. There just isn't. A role is on paper. That is all a role is. The problem is you. You are the problem in that case. It's not the role. It's you, the person. You've either outgrown it, you either don't like it, you don't want it anymore. Whatever, you are the problem, and you have to take the responsibility, saying, that's not me, and I got to do this. There's nothing wrong with a role. A role is just on paper.
Yeah, and roles are important. So the third thing that I start to sense is I create these I create an out an objective, a mission. Now the mission can look a lot of different ways. So I'll explain like a couple of them that I've used where I'm like, oh shit, I got to fix this. One is a timeline. So I'm like, I can do this for 3 years. I can do this for a year. I can do this for whatever amount of time. Like I can endure it, right? Even though I'm lying to myself, yeah, like I can do it. The second is I give myself like a criteria that like when that criteria checks, then I can do something else. So like let me get the company to like this level and then I'll find a replacement or someone else can slide into my role and I can grow. So I create a criteria, that's number two. And then number three is, oh man. So I mean we coach guys that are at this place, right? The third is uh so I create a duration, I create a criteria, or worse, I create a justification for why I need to. Like no one else can run this company like I can, or no one has the vision like I do. And I think about, I mean, we've talked about companies left and right, Starbucks, Apple, Lego. We talked about a lot of these, but these are problems that CEOs faced, right? When we talked about Lego was failing and falling. It's really hard for someone to be like, yeah, it's failing and falling, and this is my time to go because of these criterias or these like I got to get it to this certain place. I've got to fix it, before it's right. And when I set these things up, I'm doing this like subconsciously. Like I don't even know this shit, right? I'm just saying to myself like, okay, like I'll do this for like 2 more years, and then I think I'll find myself moving on. Or I want to get to this age, and then I think I'll do something different. And what we're essentially signing up for is like I'm going to play this role for X amount of movies. And then I think I'll take my acting career somewhere else, even though right now I want to be doing something else. I just don't want it, and to be like stuck in a role is different once you acknowledge that you don't want to play it anymore. The biggest freedom I feel is when I'm like, I don't think I want to stay here. And I think I want something different now. Because then at least I can stop faking it like this is the only thing that I want. It's like giving myself permission to be like, you know what? I love running this company. I have loved running this company. This was true for Money Club. I love running this company. I love what we stand for. But holy shit, I went through COVID. I went through zero, bottoming out. I went through rebuild after rebuild after rebuild. I have worked tirelessly for 7 years on this, and I'm not here anymore. I'm not even human showing up as a leader. I'm just a robot, and I don't want to do this anymore.
I actually think that's the key is if the person who gets lost in the role not only loses their own humanity, but if you have a team, you have a very hard time empathizing with them, showing up for them because you're no longer human, you're a role. And that was my experience as well. That we sacrifice our humanity when we do that stuff.
And I remember the moment where I said that to the team, and they were like, "Yeah, we know." Like, dude, I expected some crazy response like, "Oh my god, the world! What are we gonna do?" And it was like, yeah, duh. Like, obviously you're not here, dude. Like, fucking, it's and and dude, the thing that I want to remind anybody listening is that once you get to a place where you can say it, and everybody probably knows. I think what you'll find is that all of this was a fear about the reaction.
Yeah, yes.
Just afraid of what you guys are going to think of me, or will you be like, then we hate you, or right? Then it goes down into the three wounds. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. Like, is all that going to wash away? Because then the role isn't really as elevated, right? I'm humbling myself down. Uh,
I think I told you this story. When I left ministry, there was a period where I hadn't quite left. I was on sabbatical, and I had same thing. I have an obligation. I'm responsible for these people. What's going to happen? Blah blah blah. To all the stories, and I got a letter from her, and I still have the letter because it was the best letter I ever got. I think it was a woman. If she walked by here today, I would not be able to recognize her. I don't even know who she is. And I got a letter from her telling me, you are something along those lines. You are a phenomenal person. You are a great preacher. You're a great teacher, but this is not the right role for you. I'm that. that she could be that honest with. I don't even know her, and took the time to write me a letter to tell me that. She's like, go do something that's better.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. That's a courageous thing to do. You know, I would encourage almost any entrepreneur to recognize that entrepreneurship is not a job or a role. Entrepreneurship is like a lifestyle. Let's call it that. And I find that the simplest way to define entrepreneurship is the constant pursuit of a bigger problem to make your mission. That's what entrepreneurship is, a constant pursuit of a bigger problem. So like the problem that I solved 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the people that I coached, because I've been coaching for 15 years ago, were athletes that were 12 that were struggling with their mechanics, their agility, and their balance. Well, fast forward, it became bigger than that. Then it was teams struggling with their culture, their values, like their mechanics and their individual player attributes. Okay. Well, fast forward, then it was like schools with their programming, their uh, connective experiential learning, and the subject matter being largely disconnected from the real world. Then it was like, okay, businesses that are watching teams wither away and communications poor. Now it's like CEOs that don't know what they want next. They don't know how to get out of their role to the next level, right? That's very largely the passion project that I'm on right now. And then it will grow again. And eventually I'll be like, I don't want to solve this problem anymore. I want to solve something bigger. Part of that is the curse of being an entrepreneur. It's the I was reading about ADD this morning, and how ADD is not a lack of focus. It's actually how was it described? The systems that create focus are harder to access, right? You have a hard time accessing the like brain function that creates focus. And I think entrepreneurs love to move on. Like we play something for a while, we're like all in on it, we're all about it, and then we're like, not done.
What? Yeah, there's also that's shiny object stuff too.
It can totally be avoidance. But this is the hard part about entrepreneurs, that you got to figure out what the difference is. Are you avoiding, or have you outgrown it? And I think that for a lot of gritty, strong people, the tendency is to just stay in something and try to grit it out for a long time, even though you're ready to like break out into the next level. And someone going through our accelerator program said the other day, hey, I have been running programs and teaching the thing that I want to go teach. I've been running this business, and now I want to go help people do this. And to escape out of the box and say, I've been running programs that are inclusive and are designed to create inner city change and impact, and now I want to go help people who are running inner city programs be more inclusive and learn leadership methods, requires you to let go of helping 4 people and instead go help 40,000 people. And I remember having that reflection when I was writing Let Her Play, that I was like, I can only impact 18 players on a team. I can carry 4 teams. That's like 70 people. So I can impact 70 people, or I could go coach coaches. I could give this script to dozens and dozens of clubs that have dozens of coaches. And maybe that could impact thousands of players. And I think that's the entrepreneurial journey, is like, there's this mechanism of growing and scaling that's also about scaling our ideas, our problem solving, our passion, all of those pieces, when you let go of the role.
I think there's a couple things I could say there. There's the scan. There's the more. There's the bigger problem. There's all that stuff while staying in this moment. I think that's often what we miss. We're always chasing something beyond us, and we lose sight of being here and now. And this is my indicator. If you've ever gone away, this is my experience. I would have to leave. And when I would leave, it felt as if Marty had to catch up at rocket speed so that I could become whole again. There was such a split between that's now how I can indicate if I'm too much in a role. It starts to feel like Marty is trying to run to catch up with me. For me, that's my indicator. When I go away and I feel like I have to crash into myself, I'm probably living more of a role than I am a person.
I want to understand that better. Because I don't fully understand having to run back to or like crash in. So is that like when you are coming back from a break, you're not excited, you're not enthusiastic? Is
Oh,
that what?
I would have to go on break because I was exhausted, that I was feeling burnt out, because it was the role, the role, the role, the role, while Marty was being neglected. And so then, but Marty's always trying to catch up to me. He wants to be me. And the only way I could do that was to leave and allow him to catch up so I could become whole again. And then I go right back into the role, the role, the role. Correct. Correct. Correct.
That okay, yeah, that I get. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, and I think there's a way to evolve the role, whatever your role is, right? To evolve it, to break out of the box and then evolve it, where what's happening is you can start to address the other pieces and make them more integrated. Whether that's like more breaks, even right, work life.
If you, the person, doesn't fit in that role, then you don't fit in the role. That's just the bottom line. It's not the right seat for you.
Dude, it'd be like trying to put me in a fucking carry-on bag. Like I'm not gonna fit. I'm 6'2", 182 pounds. Like I'm not gonna fit into a carry-on bag.
I'm like, it's only a 4 hour flight. We could just get you in there.
Right, right.
But that's what we tell ourselves. It's only 4 hours. I can jam it in there for a little while.
And let's get practical real quick before we end. You know, this has certainly changed as I've morphed into being a dad. I think for a lot of men, fatherhood prompts a lot of this stuff. So it's a good anecdote. But
Which become another role.
totally another hat to wear. But at that point, me running the business, it didn't work anymore for me to work 60, 70 hours. Like it just couldn't work. So I had to evolve the role of like, okay, well, now the role has to look different, right? I have to act different. Otherwise, I'm going to break, because the role I had defined was like, I'll work when I'm needed to work. I'll work as much as necessary to make the financial ends happen, or make the success happen, like whatever it is. So I think one is like, from a time perspective, when you get to a place where you're like, yeah, this role requires me to work like all the fucking time and I'm ready to not. That's one great place tactically.
You're probably also avoiding at that point.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, a lot of businesses, depending on where they are, require a lot from the CEO. Yes, there can be an avoidance, but I think let's just label it to keep it simple for today. Like you got a lot of demand. Cool. The second piece I think tactically that happens is when you're like everyone comes to you. That's another piece of role where like maybe you're the one solving all the problems, or the team reports to you, or your clients all report to you. That can be another element of like role. I'm ready to level up, where this becomes less about the person and more about the team. That's a great place for a role level up. We're going through some of that now. I think another good indicator of like propensity to grow is when you say you want the team to act autonomous, and like for some reason they're not, right? And maybe you can't figure out that it's probably you, but you want the team, the managers, the whomever, to like really run without you, but they aren't. And that's another place where the role has to get bigger, because often the whoever the leader is actually perpetuating the managers not being autonomous. And you have to grow the role out to be like, okay, well, I have a different role now, and you have a different role now, and we're both going to grow together. Those are just three places. You have any others that you think would benefit people to hear?
I think they're good. That's where I would say we see them most often.
Yeah, yeah. It's like self handicapping as I'm the center point, uh, or also
Well, so many take on savior complex when they're in that role as well. They just do, big time.
somebody sent me a picture of like a savior complex image. Like it was a guy like surfing, and his shirt just said like, "I'm here to save you," and like it's how we do it, right? Um, but I think beyond that, maybe the place that we're trying to go is that if if you want your business to operate without you, if you want your business to grow, if you want your business to change because it's not running the way you want it to, then you got to grow the role. You've got to grow your role or grow out of your role and build a new one. And and the way that we, meaning us, Marty and I, help companies do that. Even with our team, we've got a team of about 9 now. The way that we help people do that is to like craft the role, right? Because a lot of times, if you just jettison out, this happens when people sell their business, right? They get jettisoned out, and then they're just in limbo, and they're looking for anything to catch them during free fall, right? It was their whole identity, and they're forced out of the role, right? This would be like a CEO being fired. Like, what do I do now? And instead, if we think of it like, okay, we're going to craft you a new role. What does this new role look like? What are the responsibilities there? What are the passions? What are the problems that you want to solve? You can actually do that rather well, and then you start morphing into that mentality, into that identity. And this sounds like psychological and woo woo, and it really is quite tactical. Like, what problem are you going to solve? How much are you going to work? How much do you get paid? Like, what what's your team look like? What businesses are you running? Are you running multiple? And there are various people that are doing this same kind of work super tactically. Dan Martell is doing it super tactically. Simon Sinek is doing it super tactically. It is a very tactical thing. It just requires the person to have an introspective kickstart to be like, okay, I'm ready to grow again. How do I do that?
Well, yeah, and in my experience, there's often something sets it off. I said it early on when we in the conversation. All it takes is a little crack in the facade, and the whole thing begins to blow up because you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, if you're in this spot,
You are ignoring, then you're choosing to ignore.
well, there's a comfort zone thing, right? It's more uncomfortable to be out of your identity than it is to be in the pain. And so again, I don't think it's always conscious. It's like, no, it's supposed to be hard.
Correct, until it is, and that's what I said. Like as soon as it's conscious, then it becomes a choice whether you do it or not.
Yeah. Well, we can help you if you're here. This is what our entire methodology is based on. This evolution out of your current role. That might be about your business. That might be, maybe you're the CEO of multiple companies and you're burnt out all the time and you're tired of working all the time. Okay, you've now got to become the owner of several businesses that have their own CEO and learn to lead those CEOs. Like that, there are a lot of examples of this. And if you're struggling with this, we've got a great formula. We've got a recipe. If you want to book a one-on-one strategy call and just talk through where you're at, I would love to help you identify where the pockets are, what the route looks like for you, and most importantly, reassure you that you're not crazy, because you're not crazy for wanting more, nor are you crazy for feeling like this role is forcing you to shrink and that you're getting stuffed in a carry-on bag regularly when you try to do shit.
When I was leaving ministry, people were trying to convince me that I was crazy, and I'm like, I'm the one that's not crazy at the moment.
Yeah, I'm the only one that can see it, which is real. Look, we're going to keep talking about this kind of stuff, the comfort zone versus your vision. The pursuit of what you're capable of is your vision, right? Hey, I can see more for myself. I can see more for my impact, more for my intellect, more for my family, more for my life. And I want you to pursue your vision. Know that you're going to have to really confront your comfort zone. And this is what this is about, right? You keep going into the role that might feel comfortable until it's not comfortable and you got to break it. We've got a great methodology to help you. We're going to keep digging into that here on this podcast. Marty and I are going to keep dissecting how to break the mask, align the man, and lead from your presence and who you are, rather than this lens of performance that you might have built
From a place of authenticity.
Yeah, I like that. There's a version of you that exists beyond your current role, and I want to invite you to just think about that as you cruise through your week. Love to hear comments if you have thoughts, if you have reactions, if you have disagreement. Send me a note on Instagram at Aaron Velky. You can check out everything that we've got online at www.living.vision. And if you're interested in one of our programs, any of our accelerator courses, content, or methods, frameworks, we've got a lot that we can offer you. Appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you. We'll see you on the next episode. Marty, have a great day. And you listening, I hope you have a phenomenal less performative, more authentic afternoon. See you guys.